today, I would just like to draw everyone's attention to the disclaimer that's appearing on the screen and highlight that what Manny and I will discuss today and share with you is general advice only. Before making any decisions based on this presentation, you should assess your own circumstances or consult a financial planner. We will be talking through some case studies. So the names of those clients that we have assisted in the past, we have changed their names and some of the details just to protect the privacy of our clients. I wouldn't mind moving to another set of clients that you helped. It's similar in one respect, and that is obviously the passing of one of the spouses. But we've called these Simone and Steve, and they had already been retired for 5 years when you met them. And then, unfortunately, the worst happened. Can you just talk me through what happened when you met with Simone?
Yeah, sure. So another fairly typical scenario, I'd say. Typical in the sense that, um, having been an advisor for 20 plus years, what I tend to find is there's always one person in a couple that will look after the finances. So in this case, it was Steve. And although they'd been retired for 5 years, um, there was something that triggered them to say, well, let's get advice now and just see how we're traveling. We've been drawing down on our super for the last 5 years. Everything's okay from where they sit, but they just wanted like a second opinion in a way. So Steve had actually set up everything himself. He was comfortable looking after the finances, but just felt, you know, we just need a second opinion, make sure we're not missing out on anything and go from there. So that's when I met Steve and Simone.
And what was their financial position like when you met them?
Yeah, so they each had superannuation. Once again, lucky enough, their house was paid off. They had no debt, a little bit in the bank account. They were drawing down income from each of their superannuation. And the way Steve had set it up, actually, is that he had moved money from his superannuation over to Simone's, hoping that that would maximize his age pension. And he was getting some age pension. And they were each drawing a pension from their superannuation. So once again, as far as he was concerned, everything was going well. But yeah, it was a bit different once I analysed their current position.
And the thing is, we tend to, as humans, think that the only thing a financial advisor is interested in is the numbers. What were their goals? Because I know that's where you start, Manny. I know the numbers are what back it, but what were they looking to do?
Yeah, the financial aspect is important. The numbers are important, and we do obviously look at that. You could argue equally as important or more important is
Gives you
actually
the
what someone
choices,
wants to
doesn't it?
do. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. You've got to have the financial backing there to do the things you want to do. However, like I said before, a lot of people tend to uh, determine themselves what they can afford to do based on the numbers they have, based on their financial position. When in fact, what we like to do is talk about what they want to achieve first.
Mm.
And then we're in a position to be able to analyze the numbers and say, well, what you're looking to achieve can be done, or it can't be done, or we need to make some trade-offs, or what else can you do? Um, so their main goals really were the biggest goal they had, obviously, other than meeting their income needs, was to take an overseas trip to Africa, one of the places
Okay.
they both wanted to go to. So that's one of the other things they wanted to look at in the advice is is it affordable for them? Whose superannuation to draw it out of? What happens if they reduce their capital by such a large expense? Because it's not going to be cheap. Are they still able to meet their needs over the long term? So one major trip, but it can trigger a lot of emotions in a person and a lot of questions. And that was the main purpose of getting advice as well.
Yeah. And what happened?
Yeah, so initially when we met them, or when I met them, analysed their current position, actually determined that they could be in a far better financial position. Had Steve got advice earlier, unfortunately, or
Hindsight.
fortunately where we was now. So we actually rearranged a couple of things, changed the structure of Simone's superannuation, and they ended up getting more age pension for Steve. However, that ended up being, unfortunately, just for the short term because sadly Steve passed away. Um, he ended up in hospital, came out of hospital, was sick for quite some time, and then deteriorated pretty quickly. And he passed away on Christmas, or just before Christmas. So over the Christmas period, I got a phone call from Simone to let me know, sadly, that Steve has passed away. And we agreed to catch up in the new year to review her overall position based on the fact that he passed. And like the previous story, as well as the financial aspect she's got to deal with, it's the personal loss of losing a partner, the dreams they had, the objectives they had, now in a position where she just doesn't know what to do, never manage the finances. She knows that she will lose Steve's age pension. That's an income stream coming in. But what's going to happen when that stops?
Yeah. And how
Can
much
she still
advice
meet her
was she
needs?
getting from Dr. Google? Other
Yeah,
people?
like we do these days, health related or finance related, we tend to jump on Google and do some searches and get all kinds of answers. In this situation, her Dr. Google, so to speak, was her family. So she was getting advice from family members or getting suggestions from family members on what to do now that Steve had passed. And in their mind, they were helping someone because Steve was the one that looked after the finances, someone didn't. So they were wrapping their arms around her and going, "This is what you should do," because they think it's in her best interest. But it was good that I had a relationship with Simone. We'd rearrange things earlier to improve things. So she was very comfortable in taking that information from family members, but then coming to me to get that professional opinion where we can look at it from an objective view, and we can be a trusted source to say, no, this is what you should actually be doing based on the goals and objectives she now has, which is potentially different or a little bit different from when I spoke to both of them.
I hate to ask this question. Did they make it to Africa?
No, well, unfortunately not. They didn't get to Africa before Steve passed away, given how quickly he did. On a positive, in a way, she is going to Africa in a couple of years, actually. So although it's not right now and delayed a little bit given Steve's passing, she's still getting to Africa, which is good. But obviously it's sad because Steve won't be there.
Yeah, and not dissimilar to Casey, she is in that situation now where she needs to redefine herself. Like you said, they've lost their life partner, and now it's time to focus on herself and what does she want, and doing that trip. Whilst that'll be wonderful that she does that trip, and I'm sure many joyful years ahead, but it must hurt, and deep down that she waited. And maybe if they had seen you that bit earlier, they would have realized they could have afforded it a few years earlier. They could have done those plans. They didn't need to hold off. So I think listening to both these client stories, Manni, and thank you so much for sharing them, because I do find these ones so emotive and so hard because, as you put it, you do very much become a life coach. But for me, listening to them, there are some real standout lessons, I think lessons for us all. And the number one is, to me, just to be careful who you listen to. And I'm just as guilty. I see a little spot on my hand and I Dr. Google it. Oh, what's going to happen? Is my hand going to drop off? You are a professional. Your job is to know what the current rules are, whether it be tax, whether it be in super. Seeking somebody who can be impartial away from that, the benefit out of it is absolutely invaluable. You can never plan too early. And I think coming to a professional like yourself, if Steve had come those few years earlier, would have realized he could have maybe maximized a little bit more Centrelink. They could have gone on that holiday and actually, started living those lives. And I think if we can just take that time before we retire to visualize the type of retirement lifestyle we want, how do we want to live, where do we want to spend our time, what toys and things we may think we need to make that a reality and make that dreams come true. Manni, do you have any advice, any lessons out of this? You were very close to both these stories.
Yeah, look, certainly, visualizing your retirement lifestyle is really important. So like you're saying, we all want to, I guess we all have that pipe dream while we're working. We wish we could stop work and live on a yacht and sail the world or whatever it might be. But when we come down to the nuts and bolts, how what is people's lifestyle like, and what kind of lifestyle do they want to live? But also, equally as important is probably rating those goals, or having those goals that you want to, having those goals in retirement, but prioritizing, because that goes hand in hand with maybe where we said it's never too early to plan ahead, that goes hand in hand with planning ahead, because some people might be in a position to actually achieve some of those goals now while they're working. So it could be they could take some long service leave or extended leave and actually fulfill those goals, because like those two scenarios we've been through, and there's other life events obviously that come into play. But like those two case studies, things can change, and things can change pretty quickly. Life gets in the way, so to speak. So some people might be able to achieve those. Some people might be able to achieve those goals prior to retirement. So we've got their top goals in retirement, but it's also good to look at that and determine if any of those can be done beforehand.
I definitely need to take on that advice and to start considering and planning a little bit early what my retirement even probably looks like. And I love that idea of prioritising it instead of just one big bubble. What is that order and that advice? Thank you so much for sharing those with me. I know they are hard, but they are both